If you're new to this channel, please make sure you hit the subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button. Also, please make sure you leave a like on this video because it helps in the algorithm to increase its reach. And lastly, well, I shouldn't say lastly, but also please make sure you share this video out on your social media platforms as well. And lastly, if you haven't already, please make sure you follow me on Telegram. My goal is for by the end of this year to have 1,000 followers on Telegram, and that will greatly assist in the shadow banning which goes on social media as well as on YouTube. To follow me on Telegram, you can hit the link that is in the description box below, as well as pinned in the comment section below as well. Now, it was about 2 weeks ago that President Biden was at Howard University, an HBCU, and he delivered a speech in which he told an obviously overwhelmingly Black American audience that the most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland was white supremacy. Now, do you think our good, great president, Joe Biden, followed this up with saying that he was going to add certain amendments or provisions or addendums to the existing hate crime bill that would focus on strengthening protections towards Black Americans as it pertains to anti Black racism? Absolutely not. Of course, he wouldn't do that because that would violate the benign neglect policy. But what his administration did do is they followed up with this tweet that Kamala Harris released stating, "Today, our administration rolled out the first ever U.S. national strategy to counter anti Semitism, which includes over 100 new actions to combat rising anti Semitism. President of the United States and I are committed to fighting hatred in every form," right? So, as you can see, Biden followed up his statement to an all Black American audience for the most part at an HBCU. He followed that up with passing or putting into place the first ever U.S. national strategy to counter anti Semitism, not the first ever U.S. national strategy to counter anti Black racism. Now, here's what's interesting about this, right? Let's dive into this. I want to go to the fact sheet here. So this reads off, and the title is, and this comes from the White House: fact sheet, Biden Harris administration releases first ever U.S. national strategy to counter anti Semitism. And when you scroll down a bit, the third paragraph reads off as such: the United States has recently experienced an alarming increase in anti-Semitic incidents among other acts of hatred. American Jews account for 2.4% of the US population, but they are the victims of 63% of reported religiously motivated hate crimes, according to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI. Now, if you click on the link here, and there is a link here, it's a little bit hard to see because of the blue highlighting here, but there's a link here. And if you click on that link, it takes you to the official FBI crime database where you could look up hate crimes, right? Now, many of you are familiar with this because I've come to this often, referencing hate crimes against Black Americans. Now, what you're looking at right now is the hate crime data for the year 2020. And just as an FYI, for the most part, generally speaking, official FBI hate crime data typically runs about a year and a half to 2 years behind, right? That's why you're only going to see hate crime statistics that are officially from the FBI from 2020 and the most recent being 2021. But let's focus right now here where we are at 2020. During the 2020 statistics that we have in front of us, obviously, as per usual, African Americans slash Black Americans and or Black people are the number one victims of hate crimes in America. That's the norm here in this country, right? But what you see in third place, or I should say who you see in third place, is anti-Jewish hate at 683. Okay, fair enough. But now, when we scroll over to the 2021 statistics, which is the most recent set of data that we have as far as official FBI hate crime statistics is concerned, what you'll see is that anti-Jewish hate actually dropped to sixth place. It dropped to sixth place. It went from third place with 683 hate crimes committed against them to sixth place with 324 hate crimes committed against them. Anti-Jewish hate has dropped in half. It has dropped by 50%. Okay? Now, contrast that in comparison to anti-Black hate, which was at 2,871. It didn't fall anywhere near to half the rate. It only fell down to 2,229, right? Compared to the 2020 statistics, which was 2,871, right? But let's keep our focus on anti-Jewish hate. It literally dropped in half, and it fell to sixth place to 324, down from 683. So then, where does the Biden administration come off putting this into place as it pertains to the first ever national strategy to counter anti-Semitism, right? Because when we're reading the third paragraph here, it states the United States has recently experienced an alarming increase in anti-Semitic incidents, among other acts of hatred. American Jews account for 2.4% of the US population. They just said they are experiencing an alarming increase in anti-Semitic incidents. But once again, I hate to beat a dead horse and we're going to move on, but according to the data, that's not true. Anti-Semitic hate has actually dropped 50%. Once again, according to the Federal Bureau of Investigation's data, not me, not tdhiphop media, right? But this is why words matter. How politicians articulate themselves, what they do and don't say matter. And when they speak, by and large, for the most part, they speak with precision. Okay. That's why I have this portion highlighted in blue. It states, but they are the victims of 63% of reported religiously motivated hate crimes, according to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. So you see, if they were to keep anti-Jewish hate in the broader category of hate crimes, well, then this isn't really justified, right? And it also makes the statement false that there is an alarming increase in anti-Semitic incidents if we're keeping it in the broader sense of hate crimes. But when they break it down by a subcategory concerning religious hatred, that's where then they now have the justification to say we're putting this policy into place for anti-Semitism, because they're breaking it down. They found a loophole, and I shouldn't say found, but the loophole was there, right, to justify this, right? The loophole exists. It's there to justify the policy that was passed concerning anti-Semitism. Because as you can see here, as it pertains to, oh, I came to the wrong one, I believe. Was this it? Yeah. So as you can see here, I have anti-Asian highlighted, but it shouldn't be. Anti-Jewish hate is above all, right? Anti-Jewish hate sits at 324, and compared to anti-Islamic hate, anti-Catholic hate, anti-other religion, anti-other Christian, anti-Buddhist, anti-atheism, anti-Mormon, anti-Hindu, and anti-Jehovah's Witness, it sits atop them all. No other religion competes or even compares to the hatred that the Jewish faith, right? That anti-Jewish hatred receives. It doesn't compare to them. They don't even come close. If we're putting this off into to a subcategory, but if you take anti-Jewish hate out of the subcategory of religion and you place it within the greater body of hate crimes, then it doesn't compare to Black Americans. It doesn't even compare to anti-white hate, right? It doesn't compare to that. It gets blown out of the water. My point of highlighting this to you, though, is to prove the point and to prove the fact that these Democrats, when they get into office, if they actually wanted to do something for you, meaning Black Americans, they could, if that's what they wanted to do. They choose not to. They don't want to. The goal is to keep you on this never-ending hamster wheel where you're just running in place, going nowhere, voting blue no matter who, every election just to get nothing in return. And we'll sit up here and we'll play games with you like Joe Biden did. And we'll play games and we'll sit up here and tell you about how, oh, white supremacy is the number one terrorist threat in this country that we're facing. And he'll come and tell that to a group of Black Americans. He's not going to go sit in front of a group of Hispanics and say that. He's not going to sit in front of a group of those from the AAPI community and say that. He's not going to go sit in front of a group of Jewish people and say that. He's not going to say that to them because that doesn't resonate to them the same way it does to Black Americans because of the history of Black Americans in this country, right? Saying that to you means something, but that's the game that they play. They'll say these things to you, but they'll never follow through with policy and legislation that's specifically for you the same way that they do for everybody else, right? They only say these things to you. It's like dangling a piece of meat in front of a hungry dog, right? Forever teasing the dog, forever teasing him, but never letting him actually get a taste of that meat. Never. I just tease you with it. And I tell you, hey, you've been voting blue no matter who since 1964. It hasn't amounted to anything yet. But if you do it again, maybe this time it'll work and I'll give you this steak. But they never give you the steak. And with all that being said, that does it for today's video. So please make sure you hit the subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button to get notified whenever I release a new video. All social media links will be pinned in the comment section below. I also have a Telegram group now, so if you have Telegram, make sure to hit the link in the description box below as well as pinned in the comment section to join my Telegram group. And also, please make sure you text tdhiphop to number 33222. That's tdhiphop to number 33222. That way you'll get a text notification whenever I release a new video, but it also serves as an insurance plan for myself, so in case YouTube ever gives me the axe, I'll be able to send you a direct link to where you can find me next. And last but certainly not least, for those of you who have a love and appreciation for the work that I put in on this channel, the number one way you can show your support is through Patreon. For only $3 a month, that will help put me in position to take TD Hip Hop Media off of YouTube. Remember, the goal is not to grow big on YouTube, but to grow independent of YouTube. And for those of you who have issues with joining Patreon, you can also hit the join button that's next to the subscribe button, and that way you can become an official channel member for as little as $3 a month as well. And lastly, if you haven't already, please make sure you join the emailing list. There is no way that I can go independent of YouTube if I cannot take the audience with me. And the link to that will be pinned in the comment section as well. Thank you for your time, and until the next video, peace.